Dick Abbott. I've been a volunteer here for 21 years. I've enjoyed the garden. I've received a number of things I shouldn't have. I'm a life volunteer member. I was named a life volunteer member. I was chairman of the Bloomingdale Council for over 4 years. I received the Friendship Award, the Grace Aarons Friendship Award. I'm very proud of these things. I'm not bragging. I'm just proud of them. So that's about Dick Abbott in a nutshell. I got interested in the garden. I can be rather specific on that. It was March the 20th, 2001. And every year the garden would have semi-annual volunteer meetings. And there'd be several hundred volunteers there and their spouses. And they would have a small business meeting, and the executives would talk about what's coming up and the finances and that type of thing. And during that meeting, a lady, a long time volunteer, because there were 2 volunteers a long time that got me to the garden. And this is one of them. Her name was Rosalie Wasserman. And she stood up and she said, "My friend Debbie Peck is getting out of the nursery business, and she has offered the garden a greenhouse if we will provide people over there to take it down, move it to the garden, and erect it." And so Rosalie said, "Are there anybody that would like to volunteer to do this?" Dead silence. 200 and some people, and so I'm in the front, I'm looking back, I'm looking for hands, and nothing. But eventually I saw a hand go up and another hand go up, and Bob Van Divender volunteered to lead this group, and Bob said, "I need one more." Well, I'm sitting there with my wife Julie. First time. She'd been trying to get me to go to these meetings since I retired in 1989. And I am a master of creative avoidance, and I always got out of it. But that night, she was very insistent, March the 1st, 2000. Said, "I would like you to go with me to this meeting." I said, "I don't want to go." And she says, so we talked about it, and we disagreed, and we voted. So I went to the meeting. And so while I was there, she jabbed me in the ribs for about 10 minutes. And my arm went up, and I don't know if it was from pain or I volunteered, but at any rate, I was the last man. So the next morning, we all piled into the old LGBG panel truck, which you were surprised if it got out of the garden, but we went over to Studley, and we dismantled the greenhouse. We brought it to the garden, and we erected it. So. And that was the beginning of my start with it. From then on, I was hooked. And so I've been with the garden ever since, 20-some years. We worked in every area from the Bloomingdale House to the Visitor Center, every area in between. We repaired furniture in this building in the Bloomingdale House. We repaired the stair rails. We repaired the faucets in here. We moved up, we repaired the Monet Bridge. I don't know whether you're familiar with the Monet Bridge. It's a very famous bridge named after Monet. We repaired that from termite damage from time to time. We went up to the Visitor Center. We repaired all of the faucets in the men's and women's room in the Visitor Center. Replaced them all, they were leaking. And in the garden shop, we repaired the many items that were damaged during shipment. We repaired them for the garden. We repaired their cabinets and painted their cabinets. We built for the first time ever, a stall so that you could try on clothes in the garden shop, which was a very, very first. If you notice coming into the garden, the whole garden is ensconced with a fence, and it's all I forget the term, but it's made out of metal staves. And some guy came through there one on a Saturday night and decided he didn't like them, so he took out about 40 feet. And so we replaced them. And they sat down behind the garden for years, overgrown, and someone suggested, can we repair those and use them at the garden shop? We repaired, I guess, about 100 feet. They were all bent up and beaten, rusted. We got them straight. We painted them and we installed them, and that's the fence you see around the patio now in the garden shop. Moving on to the Lockberry house. We replaced the roof over the deck. We replaced the deck itself. We shingled the roof and just about remade that whole area of the outside. And from there we moved to the front door, and the door was rotten, and we replaced that with we designed and built it ourselves. Very, very nice looking. And let's see, from the Lockberry house we went over to the Woodman Road house. We built hundreds and hundreds of feet of shelving and benches over there, which is now the home for the geezers. In the conservatory, we built all the structures for butterflies. We started about 7 years ago an exhibit where we brought in all these exotic butterflies from all over the world. And they would come in, I think the stage is pupa. And we had to build a completely airproof place for them to stay while they grew. And it had to be because we weren't sure what they were carrying. They could have carried something from a foreign country that could affect the butterflies in this country. So the Department of Agriculture had to approve that structure we built. We built the entranceway to the conservatory where the butterflies were, and we built the exit way for them. There was a move afoot about 8 or 9 years ago to build a tree house down in the children's garden. And as an advertisement, that they asked us if we could build a tree house in the conservatory with a ramp, because it was for children on wheelchairs. So we built a 20-foot tree house in the conservatory, and it had the spires like you see down there. It had the ramps, it had the balconies for the children, and that was one of our largest projects. Another one was they asked if we would build some planters down in the children's garden at various levels so the children in wheelchairs could plant things in there and watch them grow, which we did. Well, my particular flower that I liked didn't come from the garden. It was my wife's. She loved roses, she loved daylilies, and she loved orchids. Loved orchids. That was the three. I love all flowers. I'm just not a gardener. My wife was a master gardener for years. She was in 4 or 5 garden clubs, and she won all kinds of awards, both with garden displays and specimens and all. So my love for flowers came mainly from my wife. She loved flowers. But those are the flowers that she loved, and so I love them too. It changed almost every year, and I don't recall all of them, but I know that they put the children's garden in, and that was a major addition that really drew crowds. We added the visitor center. They enlarged the library. Everywhere you look, something was changing. We had 2 wonderful chief operating officers here during my period here, and they're wonderful. And my brief meeting with the one we have now, I'm deeply impressed with that. So I'm looking forward to it. But The library was enlarged. We added an auditorium there. The Rose Garden, I think I mentioned the Rose Garden. Oh, the Lotus Bridge. That's the main metal bridge that crosses over going to the Blumendahl house. That was added. We put in a number of features around the lake. And what else did they add? Butterflies Live was added. That became an annual event. It showed up once, but it came in. So we had to make special structures for the butterflies. We started a number of major events here. We had an international bicycle race, and it started here at the gate at the garden. Legos went on tour nationwide, and we had the Legos there. Oh, we had the Frable Glass, very famous Frable company, glass company. We had them here for, I think, almost a month. And we had an orchid exhibit here. So, you know, I don't know if these are changes, but they were additions that made a real change to the garden because it brought them in. What has the garden taught me? It has taught me many things. You know, when I resigned from the company and I got discharged, you made many friends during that time, 4 or 5, well, 36 years with the company, 6 years with the Army. So when you resign or you retire, you always get together and you say, now, let's don't lose track of each other. But you always do. People move away, you lose phone numbers, you lose addresses. So I came to the garden. I made many, many, many friends. I made friends with the guests that were here. I'd stop and chat with them. I made friends with the other volunteers. I made friends with the staff. I mean, true friends. You could stop and chat with them. And you know, after 36 years or 4 years, 6 years in there, you know, you get used to being with people. You're with people every day you can't. And when I retired, I was in my shop, and I loved working in my shop, woodworking. And I'd work in the yard, but I was by myself. So when I came to the garden, it opened a whole new door. Whole new door. You know, I met people every day. You know, every Tuesday, we were here every Tuesday, walking through the garden, and you'd see guests. And they'd stop and you'd chat with them and you'd find out where they were from, and it was just a wonderful experience. And then the other volunteers, I never met a volunteer that wasn't really wonderful. And thirdly, I got my geezer friends. And that bond lasted for 21 years. And we enjoyed working together. We enjoyed all the things we accomplished for the garden. We took great pride in it. And the love of the garden. That's it.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No. Other than I really appreciate the garden giving me this opportunity tell my feelings about the garden, because I do love the garden. Okay, that's it. That's what do they call it in the movies? That's a what? That's a cut. That's a cut.